It's just so much better than regular season. I mean, it's completely different, right? All the optimism and the quality of hockey and the intensity of hockey changes because you just cannot play this sport at playoff level for 82. There'd be nothing left of these men. So everybody brings their best game. You get to evaluate your team and your players, and you get to enjoy the hell out of it. So it's great.
What do you like most about the way your group's playing heading in?
I like that we've been through some things. We've got some scars on us, and there's some 2 or 3 very difficult stretches and challenges this year that we could have easily broken. But not only did we survive in it, we changed our game in those times and got better. So I like that we've handled some rough patches.
It's obviously been something you've talked about a lot, just like learning to go through adversity. Do you remember times in your career where there's been a team that kind of maybe went through some similar things in this regular season and
every one of my first 16 years. I mean, we spent a lot of time, the franchise in Hartford/Carolina was in, I would say, disarray. I don't think they had won a 7-game series and got to the finals and the conference finals 3 times over 7 years, and almost the same through Winnipeg. It hadn't won a playoff game, right? So in that stretch from where you start to where you get to, there's lots of adversity and lots of heartbreak, and you learn to handle it. Here's a different animal. So much of the core is coming into its prime now, and it's kind of paid for those players, 7, 8, 9 years ago. So we're just starting to come into it now.
Yeah, this situation is different here, right? There's a lot of the teams you took over, no expectations.
Almost all
this
teams.
One's high.
Yeah, so almost all teams. When the coaching change is made, it's because the program is at a different phase. This was unusual, to say the least, and there were challenges in that as well. But we have changed our game, and we've survived some adversity, and I'll get a little bit more on the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, looking at, I'm sure you've been poring over the game tape, or whatever they call it,
Yeah.
video.
It's not tape for George. Tape's not anymore, man. Come on.
Not tape.
Used to be.
Yeah, it used to be back in the day.
Yeah, there's no weaknesses there, right? That's the strength of their team, is the strength of it through their lineup and through their quality of play. So we have to be absolutely at our best to beat them.
When it's a team that, as strong as they were, got better at the trade deadline. I mean, they just added to it, kind of like the Panthers did last year.
They have got 5 really good players that won't make their opening night roster. So they're deep, for sure.
When you look at Boston and you pour over the footage, do you see kind of a recipe, like this is how we're going to beat them if we do things like that?
I know the places that we have to be exceptionally strong at to give ourselves a chance. I'm not sharing those with you. But yeah, this is about the places in their game that we have to be right on every time to give ourselves a chance.
What does it say about Alex Lyon's character to come in at the most critical juncture, the most critical moment of your season to do the job that he has done?
I think twice he did. And interestingly enough, those are the 2 stretches that we would talk about adversity, because it's the opportunity presented itself for your third goalie to come in, which is adversity in itself. But maybe those were the 2 best times for him to come in, because we were banged up and we had players out of our lineup and we were schedule heavy at those times. Not that the pressure's off, but what we needed from our players is what we got from our goaltender as well. We needed to scratch and claw and survive. So we, as a team, looked better in our second set of adversity. Was it just the pressure that we were under, the stretches without Barkov, without Bennett. But we still played a far more controlled game in that second stretch, and I would say the same is true of Alex.
Sam Bennett wasn't out there this morning. Is there any update?
It was early. He skated on a different sheet than us, so if he comes back strong tomorrow, he'll skate again on his own, and then we'll start working him into practice.
Is there a chance he's for the series still?
Yeah, there's a chance.
Talk about Boston's depth, but your guys' top end, I guess the guys you would call your stars, were really, really good for you down the stretch, like 10-plus points each for them.
Yeah.
Just having those guys, Barkov, Kachuk, Montour, even Ekblad, like all kind of playing their best, how much confidence, I guess, does that give you?
The places that we're closer to even is the offensive parts of the game, and we could score goals, we generate chances, and our back end scores. We've got guys on our back end, and we're going to need that clearly. We're more evenly matched offensively right now than we are defensively, So you have to make up for that in pure effort and shot blocks and all the very, very hard things in the game, which is the journey that we've been on all year, identifying that, accepting that, and then delivering on that.
With
You
with
said
your,
a few minutes ago that if you played 82 playoff games as the lead into the playoffs, there'd be nothing left of these guys. The fact that you have played 10 or 15 of them, how much does that help, sharpen the edge that you're gonna need? The fact that you've had.
Yeah,
you've
that
had
part, that part's all mental. So we've come into a whole bunch of games when the puck drops, feeling that we absolutely had to win that game, that we did carry a different pressure into our locker room. And had a bunch of games that between the second and third period, that game was tight, and we found a way to play our best hockey in Chicago and certainly in Washington, a dominant third in the most pressure. So we're used to that stomach in the throat coming to the rink feeling. It's a good feeling. Sometimes it's new for teams if they haven't dealt with it, but for our team, we've dealt with it.
It wasn't a long time ago that there was really not much playoff experience in that room. What does it mean now when I think pretty much almost every guy in that room has at least one round?
Yeah,
Being ready.
it does matter because you don't have to try to explain to them what this is going to be. It's going to be different tomorrow, right? The building will be louder than any building in the regular season, and the intensity of every shift, of every hit, of every play will be higher. At least you don't have to explain that. They understand that.
that might be the loudest building in any of the playoff ones tomorrow, Monday. I mean, just with the day, it's a holiday, everybody's gonna be.
Got a
having
ball
fun.
game the night before, a marathon the
Yeah.
day of. Everybody's rolling by the time the
that morning.
game starts.
I mean,
Yeah.
It's gonna be a whole party.
The one great thing about our league and our fans is that every home building will absolutely be rocking for the playoffs, and it's up to the road team to quiet it.
What's the biggest upset you've been a part of in your career?
I think every time we beat Jersey between 95 and 05,
Just looking at this year, how, it's pretty big disparity.
I don't know in terms of numbers, but in terms of expectations, probably Toronto in the conference final pre-cap era days. But I think maybe even game one of the 2002 Stanley Cup final, their starting six payroll was bigger than our whole team's. We won that game in overtime. We lost that series in game three of triple overtime. So you can work and compete and level the playing field on that alone.
That's Detroit, right?
Correct. They weren't bad.
Any chance Bennett flies with you guys tomorrow?
Who does?
Bennett?
No, he'll be on the trip for sure.
Thanks.
Just going to play him 47 minutes tomorrow night, so
Okay.
he's fine, yeah.
Just a maintenance thing, I guess.
No maintenance, just energy restoration. He's going to be fine.
Workload thing.
Yeah, I'm playing him 47 tomorrow.
Gotcha.
Well, Coach Sam Bennett well skated today. Just
Yeah.
any updates on his progress?
Good. You know what? He got through the first part, so it was a full, he's had all his gear on and got a bit of a tug here today. If he feels as good as he feels right now tomorrow, we'll get him into a version of what we'll have for a morning skate and then start building.
And now here we are, the team's hopping on the plane here soon. We talked about this excitement buildup.
Yeah.
Right now, actually getting to Boston.
Well, it feels like it starts now, right? So you do hours of video with the guys. You do all of that in pre-prep, and then now we get to just hockey and tight meetings and go out and play. So everybody's excited to get on that plane because it starts then.
What does it mean to not really be back into the playoffs here, but like you said, fighting all the way to the end, 6-1-1, all the stars are red hot, just to go in on this high note?
Yeah, we're going in with some scars, which is good, but they've healed, right? We survived them. We had some tough stretches this year where there was a lot of mental toughness needed. That's what this series is going to be all about. You're not controlling the whole series. We're not coming in and dominating the Boston Bruins. They're gonna have their attacks and they're gonna have their zone time, and we got to survive them. And nobody's looking for straight here. We'd be real excited to go 7 games if we could with these guys. So handling those kind of grinds and those the situations when you're not in control, and then we found a way to fight back to get control toward the end. So we've got some miles on us. It's a good way, and then we're rested and ready.
A lot of times you hear people say, yeah, throw out the regular season once you get to the playoffs, but at the same time, you guys were one of 2 teams that beat them twice. Does it just mean something mentally when the guys get on the ice, they look across the ice?
Yeah.
We have beaten these guys.
I think you throw the regular season out because you're tracked for 82 games, right? There's the standings, and you're constantly watching that, and we all start at zeros again. So that's everybody. If you had an average year, you could be a star in 3 games, right? You can change your fortunes. It's true as a team as well, right? You can find that extra bit of energy and that extra bit of positivity, and you can build off that. Even on games that you don't win, you can get stronger as the playoff goes. We've had those conversations. We've had those nights where we had to win the game. and find another level. And that's what the playoffs is. You build. You try to get better every single day in every single game.
How important, Ed, we've talked about it so many times, but staying out of the box, especially against this team.
Yeah.
Their power play is so dangerous.
Yeah, I think the advantage, statistically, power plays, both teams got really dynamic power plays, but their penalty kill is elite, right? And that's an area, our penalty kill in the last 5 or 6 games has gotten a lot better, but over 82, that's where the aberration really between the two teams is that their penalty kill is world class. So we do have to stay out of the penalty box because we may not get quite as much action on our power play. If it's even in penalties, that's to their advantage in some ways because their penalty kill is so strong. So it's discipline is critical, but at the same time, we have to have a certain amount of attack in our game.
And you talked a little bit yesterday about the defense. You're going to have to block shots against these guys.
Yeah.
You guys probably have the advantage when it comes to offensive chances, but
Yeah,
they bring quality to the game, don't they?
Yeah, well, that's a depth thing because you've got a Hart Trophy winner playing in the 3-hole. So there's a depth component to that. I think their back end scored 36, our back end scored 52. So we can score goals. We won't score as many as, no team scores as many against Boston as you'd like. And that's, we've got to scratch and claw for the defensive side of the game to kind of bring that to even. I think we'll generate.
Kind of on that depth, Ryan Lomberg, he played all 82 games this year.
Yeah.
The guy's had some good playoff moments. Just having him down in the bottom half, the guy seems like he's getting a ton of chances right now.
Yeah.
Just how valuable is a guy like him?
Well, you look at his career, right? He's in and out of the lineup at times, in and out of playoff games, and he may well have spent more time in our top 9 than in our top 12 this year with the injuries that we've had. And then he got to a point that we just kind of assumed his game, which is a real compliment to him. We had a pretty darn good idea how Ryan was going to play every night because he did. He's got a good set of hands. The goal he scored the other night, bar down. He can do that. I think playing with Eric Stahl and the ability to use the back of the net has been great for him. But he's a top 9 guy for the Florida Panthers right now, not by default. Because of what he brings, that speed, because of the other pieces that we have on our top 9, what he does has become more valuable to us. And he's a legitimate top 9 guy.
From day one, we're talking about getting you guys ready for playoff style hockey. Do you feel like you guys are where you had kind of hoped you would look like?
I'm going to say yes because of our January and our final push in March. We had to, that piece in January to me, and we talked about this in the room, was one of the most critical pieces for our franchise. And I truly felt it would be part of defining us for the next 5 years. I really felt that way because it was so hard and we were banged up. And what we've been talking about, I know I use the word hard all the time, but being completely competitive in the 5-foot circle for 60 straight minutes, that's the challenge, and we found a way. Now, it wasn't always, I think our December too, you couldn't see it because we were so banged up and so fatigued, but I felt it was coming. January, you saw it, and then the push saw it. So we at least don't have to explain to our team what the playoff hardness is all about because we've lived it twice. And we've got guys now that have at least 3 series in the last 2 years under their belt that they understand what this is going to look like.
So that January could define you guys for.
I believe that.
Yeah, obviously, just getting in the playoffs is like the bare minimum goal, right? But to be in there every year, just like, is there just, you guys kind of.
It's the bare minimum goal, but we've got Washington and Pittsburgh that drop out, and then there's a whole bunch of teams who've done it for 4 years. That's how hard it is. You're shocked by it when you look at the list when you've got St. Louis winning a Stanley Cup, and the assumption is, all right, well, the next 15 years we're making the playoffs. That's how hard this is. And that, I think sometimes it gets minimized, and it causes the problem for some teams. Oh, my God, we're out of the playoffs. This is terrible. Instead of, we're 2 points out of the playoffs. It's really hard to get in. We better go. And I felt we did that. The assessment of this group, kind of going from a soft, skilled team over years, which is true of all kind of teams. They usually play, they have rough seasons, they draft high, they get skilled players in. It's not nearly as hard as it needs to be. They go through the phase, they learn hard, and then they become a really good team. So I think we're moving along. I think this playoff series, I feel, is kind of like that January. Learning how to play as hard as we're going to need to play to compete in that is important for our team, but it's a great assessment for the individuals as well. Right? We're going to get to see the guys, how they look in the heaviest probably of all series in this league. This is going to be a battle. We're going to get a great indication of where our players are at.
And Matthew Tkachuk, he's not a soft-skilled player, is he?
No, and that's what makes him so very special is his ability to do all those heavy things in hard areas. And he's also going to be a keyed-on guy now, right? You get into a playoff series and it's a different because the matchups change. You get the same set every night. You get the best players. Now, he would get the best set. But when you're split with Tkachuk and Barkov on different lines, there's a challenge. You get into a depth there. They've got their 6 guys they're comfortable playing on the back end, so they'll key on our top players. We'll key on their top players. He's good. But more traffic is better for him because he can make plays out of traffic. He can find people away from him because he's not afraid.
We were told, we talked about this in June, July, July. He's built for this time of year, correct?
He's built for it because he practices it every day. He's a little bit like that, like there's going to be a bunch of third line guys that score in the playoffs. There always is.
Sure.
And you say they elevate their play. Actually, they don't. They've been playing that because to stay in the league, they got to play that game for 82. So nothing actually changes for them. They go to the net every time anyway, and they can start scoring goals. So I would say that about Matthew. He plays the exact same game for 82 that he's going to play here the other night. Nothing changes for him.
You know, the idea when they brought him in was that he would maybe rub off kind of on some guys too. Obviously, you weren't here last year, but have you seen that this year where
We
guys
play-
take on his attitude?
well-
I mean, obviously, you guys have played that way too.
We've learned to play way harder, right? November was the disappointing month for us. And we lost Sasha in that stretch. I understand that. And there were some other things about our game that I don't think were. I think we played better than necessarily our record said, but that was the last bit of soft hockey that I thought we played. It's not, and that's an unfair word to the team. It's the last bit of hockey where we relied purely on the offensive breaks in a game to win. That's a better way of putting it. It's not soft, but when you're only playing with your puck game, you're not really playing with any defensive mindset. I thought we really got better at it in December, but you couldn't tell because we went a month without 2 days off at home. We were all over the place. Barkov went down, Lundell went down, Gudis went down. Our goaltending was definitely in flux, to say the least. And then in January, we got hurt.
How'd Alex Line look today to you?
Oh, I don't know.
You didn't pay attention?
I don't ever watch the goaltenders. I got a full-time, because your goalie goes out and he stands on his head like it's morning skates. I always have my back to the guy that's starting because I don't want it in my head because it means nothing. If you don't get near one in the morning skate, I don't want to be thinking about that in the bench when the first wobbling wobbles. I want to be thinking about how has he looked, how does he respond to a wobbler. So in my head, I've got, for Alex, the first goal against Montreal. Right, he played so very well in Toronto, and they came down and threw that batting, and then he shut the door. Those are the things I want to think about behind that. I've got a fairly good read on this guy, even though he hasn't played a lot, of what he looks like and what my expectations would be, and none of it comes from practice. The 2 guys that played in that, they worked their asses off in practice. So like Bobrovsky is a hard-working practice player, and so is Alex. So I don't pay any attention to what they do. I really don't know what they do. The hell, I don't know why they do it. I did think that today when Lombard lit that one up from about 15 feet on Bob, and he stood right in front of it. I thought, why would you play goal? I don't know.
But tomorrow's the spotlight is solely on you. You guys. I mean, you guys are on the ESPN, and it's
Yeah.
Boston, and it's all the stuff going on. It's going to be a circus around you guys.
Yeah.
Are you hoping your guys relish this, embrace it, or what?
Yeah, I want to take it all in. The nervousness, all of it. I want the players to experience all of it. There's a time to shut it out, but you have to learn how to handle the pressure of the game because the pressure isn't ever getting lighter. It's more. There's more in game 2 than game 1 in the first round, and that will build hopefully for 2 months. So, yeah, take it all in, man. You be nervous. Have the butterflies, and then learn how to deal with that and get back to the basics of the game. Right. So there's a time to shut some things out, but. First game, take it in. Let it fire.
I mean, you guys are landing in Boston, and it's already like a holiday. It's
on, man.
Yeah, it's Mardi Gras.
I mean, if we could have done this on March 17th, that'd be the only way to make it bigger. Right? It's the only way this place would be more lit up. But I'll take it in, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Guys, thanks very much.